5 years have passed since the dark figure moved among the citizens of Blackstone, distributing the gifts that brought madness and death. Each month had brought a new gift and a new tragedy. A doll, a woman's locket, then a cigarette lighter, a handkerchief, and an old-fashioned stereoscope. The public never learned the identity of the dark figure, but somehow everyone knew the old asylum was at the center of the tragedies. People got on with their lives. Oliver Metcalf, son of the last asylum keeper, married Rebecca Morrison. A year later, they had a son, who has since remained blissfully ignorant of the evil that has plagued his family. Now, the State Historical Society has renovated the asylum and plans to open it as a museum of psychiatric history. Malcolm Metcalf, the last superintendent of the asylum, was my father. The last time the old building was disturbed, my memories of him came alive and I became the dark figure. This time, I pray to God he will leave me and my family in peace.
Welcome back, Oliver. It's been almost 5 years.
Hello, Father. What do you want?
Look around, Oliver. Do you know where you are?
It's the old asylum, but it doesn't look like this anymore. It's all been changed.
You disobeyed me, Oliver. You never finished the task I set out for you.
I did more than I should have.
Nonsense. Your task was simple. You were to seek revenge on the families.
You've killed enough people, Father. Can't you leave me alone?
No. First, they took the asylum from me. Now they plan to turn it into a museum. They must be punished, Oliver, starting with that woman you married.
You should know better than that. I won't do it.
The son disobeys the father, eh? Perhaps I'll have better luck with your son. Joshua.
Who are you?
Grandfather Malcolm.
I thought you were dead.
Oh, no. Come along with me, Joshua. I know some good games we can play.
Okay.
You see, Oliver, I mean to have my revenge. Perhaps you will see things my way before the night is through. I'm sure young Joshua will.
Dad? I'm scared, Daddy.
Don't worry, Josh. I'm coming.
I was with Grandpa, but then something happened. Now I'm all alone.
It'll be okay, Josh. I'm coming to get you.
Well, welcome to Blackstone Asylum. Why don't we go back and call the police?
Leave now, Oliver, and your son will be mine forever. Is that what you want? I didn't think so. They did a nice job with that.
Nothing in there.
This is the way the entry hall looked before the Blackstone Historical Society purchased the asylum and began our restoration program.
It broke my heart how they let this place go to ruin.
The restoration of the entry hall is now complete, although other areas of the building still remain to be restored.
It'll never be the way it was, Oliver. They destroyed it.
In addition to the audio guide, there are also these information panels around the museum. Pause the video to read or look in the thread for screenshots. This one provides general background information about this fictional asylum, but most of the later ones actually have historical facts. One thing worth carrying away from here is that the treatment rooms are fully operational and some of the patient rooms have been reconstructed. I can skip these awkward animations.
They're too soft, promotes poor posture. Do you really think you should be resting, Oliver? The important thing was that they be too heavy for the inmates to lift. Fewer injuries that way. I liked these couches because they were comfortable, yet didn't allow the patients to slouch. I've never understood how people can be so cruel to animals. Your grandfather was quite the hunter. I never cared for blood sports myself. Ugh, they're turning this place into a movie theater.
The dear doctor has something to say about everything.
The originals were Lalique crystal, probably too expensive to replace. I added those myself. The hall was too gloomy without them.
Let's take a better look at the portrait.
Welcome back, Oliver.
Where have you taken him, Father?
He's in the secret room. You know where that is, don't you?
I haven't been in here for 5 years.
You remember, Oliver. You just don't want to admit it.
I don't remember.
Part of you remembers. You must let that part come back.
You will gain control of me again.
I never controlled you. You became the dark figure because you wanted to. You gave out the gifts because it was the right thing to do.
I will never go back.
If you wish to rescue young Joshua, you must.
It's just a hallucination.
An interesting hypothesis. Incorrect, but interesting. I assure you I am quite real. And this is not a nightmare from which you will somehow awaken.
Why can't you leave us alone?
I cannot do that, Oliver. A parent's responsibility to his child never ends, even in death.
What are you talking about?
You have not been a good boy, Oliver. Not only have you chosen to abandon my life's work, you have also refused to seek revenge upon those who cut it short.
What does he have to do with it?
Someone must shoulder the family burden. If you refuse the task, then I must train young Joshua, just as I once trained you.
You tortured me.
Rubbish. I used pain as an appropriate motivational device, just as every parent does, except I was far more rational than most. I never hurt you in anger, Oliver. Not every father can say that.
Bring him back.
No, you must come and get him. I believe spending time in this building will remind you of how important our work is, and that it will help persuade you it must be finished. I want you to rediscover the part of you that is buried, Oliver. However, you have only until dawn. If you have not entered the secret room by daybreak, I will give up on you for good and begin to teach Joshua what it means to be born a Metcalf.
Well, there's our objective. But before we move further, let's go back a bit. There's a day room.
It's locked.
The chapel here is locked, so let's go to the day room. We could use a change of music.
Restful art is part of the therapeutic process. The inmates used to sit for hours at a time, just staring. We encouraged the violent inmates to take up painting. No art ever came of it, but it seemed to help calm them down.
Art therapy is still widely used.
It's bolted down, less dangerous that way.
Here's a panel about occupational therapy, giving people something to do to keep them engaged, and saving or making money for the asylum itself. It's still used. And the daily schedule. A strict timetable is, again, still common as the means of mental recovery. These therapy types are still relevant.
Nasty-looking weapon, isn't it?
This is a swivel knife used to slice leather. It is a myth that sharp objects had to be withheld from all patients. Some mental illnesses pose no threat to the patient or his fellow inmates. The awl was used by inmates working on leather crafts.
A thin punch like that was perfect for making holes in leather.
I can loot many of the cases.
It's old, but it looks serviceable.
A thin punch.
Quite a few items get different commentary after you pick them up. And that way lies the kitchen.
Some inmates became quite skilled in metalwork, leather crafts, and wood carving. Basket weaving was quite popular, especially with the psychosurgery patients. Actually, we did have to lock away some of the more destructive implements, a simple precaution. They seem to have changed the lock. I often worried about those exposed hinges, but none of the inmates ever thought of removing them.
This game's puzzles are very down to earth.
Looks like they cleaned it out. Not much good without a blade. Not much good with...
Now to the kitchen.
Our menus were meticulously planned by trained dietitians. I suspect the patients didn't appreciate the effort we put into keeping them on a healthy diet. It hasn't been recharged in years. The fire department will crucify them at final inspection. It's worthless, Oliver. It's deader than I am.
Okay, Dad.
Doesn't budge. Doesn't feel cold at all.
The kitchen has its own set of circuits.
But how good are those circuits?
That can't be working. Lucky the whole place didn't burn down. Must need a new fuse.
We might need to fix this eventually.
The inmates did a surprising amount of the cooking, therapeutic and cost-effective at the same time. These ovens could turn out over 1,000 meals a day. Only women did the cooking. The men would use the pans as weapons. Cuts down on injuries, keeps people from slipping. This was just for spot cleaning. The automatic dishwashers are around behind the freezer. We ran off our own wells, purest water you could ever imagine. I thought I taught you better than to waste water. We kept ordinary supplies in there. I don't know what the new people plan to do.
Right, but I see an exposed latch there.
I wonder why they call them monkey wrenches.
There are a few theories on the matter.
It's heavy.
You'd be surprised at the edge you can put on a knife with one of these.
There. Much sharper now.
Did you know lobsters used to be so plentiful and cheap that railroad workers ate them 3 meals a day? They got so sick of them they went on strike for the right not to be fed lobsters. Soup was always a questionable meal. It had a good chance of ending up on the walls. Oh, leave it be, Oliver. Stop fidgeting about.
But it's not nailed down.
An essential tool for handling boiling lobsters.
I wish I had a pair like this for my grill.
Isn't that what every father thinks looking for his missing son? No? Okay, Oliver is special.
We use these for making shish kebabs.
Long and sharp. These could hurt someone if you weren't careful.
Let's hope not. The game's animation budget won't hold if it has to show anyone getting stabbed. I could skip all these, but I happen to enjoy the atmosphere. Now what's behind the corner?
There seems to be something missing.
The elevator handle is in the office. Okay, let's get it then. There's the office. It's a lovely room.
The elevator in the entry hall was used only by the superintendent and his special visitors. To ensure there was no unauthorized use, he had the operator's handle locked up in his office each night.
The families of prospective patients were always impressed by the grounds, by the building, and by the staff. But sometimes what impressed them most of all was that old-fashioned elevator and the uniformed operator.
In any psychiatric hospital, controlling access is of paramount importance. Each worker had only those keys that allowed him to do his job. Only the superintendent had the master set of keys to every lock in the building.
It'll do you no good, Oliver. Only I remember which key goes in which lock. You'll spend all night trying to get through one door.
More backstory here, but apparently the old patient records have been recovered and turned into a computer database. Oliver's mother died giving birth to him and his twin sister, who died 4 years later. And now Dad is the only person who really knew this place top to bottom, and arranged a number of rich clients. Well then, let's check the room out. But first...
The families of prospective...
How could anyone remember what all these keys go to?
And here's the catch, we have every single key, but there are too many to try them all.
Those are the anatomical drawings that accompanied the first article I ever had published. Those came from the fireplace in the Great Hall at Berkeley Castle in England. I used to think my work would be known all over the world. Now that is up to you, or to Joshua. Your mother died too soon, Oliver, but I no longer blame you and Mallory for her death. I had it custom made in Florence. Your mother loved Italian craftsmanship. She's not here, Oliver. She rarely came into the asylum and never formed a strong enough connection with anything to keep her spirit here. The vases belong to your mother. Have you ever noticed that civilization is advanced only by caffeine-drinking peoples? The English and Chinese with their tea, the French, German, and Americans with their coffee. It's something to think about. This is hardly the time for a pot of coffee.
It's empty.
What's in the pot?
M.M. Malcolm Metcalf? Nothing in there.
Oh well.
What good are coffee cups without a pot to go with them? Those are gifts from colleagues all over the world. You missed out on a wonderful profession, Oliver. I bought it in Persia while I was attending a medical conference. They should have known better than to hang that in here. I detested killing animals. Louisa Hartwick. She was the leader of the women's volunteers here at the hospital. It was a gift to me from a Russian physician. It rather looks like me, don't you think? That was always one of your favorites. I used to crack nuts with it when you came to play. That was taken on your 3rd birthday. It's you and your sister Mallory. The day you were born was the most important day of my life.
I should remember this in case we find a combination lock.
You remember this desk, Oliver. You used to play underneath it for hours.
There's the computer. Let's get acquainted.
Password, Scooter. I sure hope they remove this before they open next week.
Scooter. Oh, right. We don't really know anyone here. Could try our own name, I suppose, but later.
That is the score to my concerto for 2 clarinets. It was performed at Carnegie Hall by Jamie Scott and Victor Navon. Some of my Harvard classmates. Between us, we had 3 Nobel Prize nominations. That is Donatien Alphonse, my college roommate. Sometimes a couch is just a couch. I didn't do psychoanalysis. The vases belong to Webster's second unabridged, before they started corrupting the language.
Oh, almost forgot. We can talk to our dead through the Nutcracker.
Yes, Oliver?
Nothing new to talk about, yet.
You never did enough reading as a child, Oliver. Not of the right sort, anyway.
On the Uses of the Parts of the Body of Man by Galen of Pergamum.
He added much to the knowledge of infectious disease and pharmacology.
Fractures, Dislocations, and Wounds by Hippocrates.
He was the greatest physician in history, the father of medicine.
Al-Hawi by Al-Razi.
Brilliant, the first to identify both smallpox and measles.
Vesalius, De Humani Corporis Fabrica.
He founded the modern science of anatomy.
On Aphasia by Freud.
His early work in neurology is much neglected.
William Harvey's essay on the motion of the heart and the blood.
Discovered the circulation of the blood.
Carolus Linnaeus, Systema Naturae.
The taxonomic classification he invented is still the one we use today.
Der großen Wundarsni by Paracelsus.
He was a book burner, but he invented chemotherapy and introduced chemistry into medicine.
Avicenna's Canon of Medicine.
This was the standard medical textbook for over 600 years.
The Physiology of Psychosis by Metcalfe.
My own small contribution to the body of medical knowledge.
That's quite a collection. I wonder how many of those texts are actually useful in the modern medical profession. With the handle tucked away into our pants, we can ride the elevator now. We could go to the basement, but something tells me every single door there is locked. So up is the only way. This floor is not quite as grand.
It's locked. I don't have time to try all these keys.
Yeah, unless someone tells us what the key looked like, we are not opening that door.
It's locked.
There's only one way to go then.
It's dark in here, Dad.
It'll be okay, Josh. You've got Freddy with you, right?
Yeah?
Okay, well hang on to it. He'll keep you company until I get there.
Okay.
Hello? Is someone there?
I could ask the same.
Who are you?
I'm Marilyn Wilson. This is my room. Or at least it is until I have my baby. I'm due any day now.
I'm very happy for you.
Thanks. Talk to you later. Bye.
She sounds like a nice young lady. The room is not too shabby, but small. It's unlikely she's a VIP patient, but this is her own separate room. Apart from being a ghost, I can't really find anything wrong with Marilyn Wilson. Let's see what her deal is next time.